today's episode is about factory farming and overpopulation. Since that is the central issue, those are both related for your information. But before, I just wanted to announce that that's the topic because I do tend to ramble, and maybe you're like wondering, whoa, I'm going to get into one of his things. So the whole agenda has changed here. I gotta re-announce my blog. My blog is my experiences. I'm not teaching anybody. I'm just broadcasting like a diary about where I'm thinking, things I'm doing. So there may be things that I've uploaded on here, and I've left my whole entire journey for 4 years, with the exception of some things that had to come down for various reasons. So there's things on here that I may not stand behind anymore. I definitely, I think I came to be known as a paleo thing, but the thing is, my life is very centrally vegan based all my life, and it's only my time, a short period of 4 years of my 50 years of being alive, and only minus 12 or 13 years off of that, I became interested in health food at 13. So the vegan thing has been very central in my life, so much to the end that I had this tattooed on my wrist in about 1995, I think it was. Yeah, so I returned to this time now of returning to vegan. Why did I do that? The biggest thing is, just first off, it doesn't go against my own programming. I feel like I'm designed to be vegan. It works for me, and when I consider some of the stuff I've learned in the last 4 or 5 years about fats and some of the ways that I can reanalyze my life, I believe it can be done. And anyways, so the first thing I got to address is some of the comments that people have been making. Yeah, I'm aware of some of this stuff. People talk about the sacredness of milk, and talking about wild versus factory farming. You're missing the point here. I don't care about if omnivore is healthy or not. It actually does make perfect sense that without having a highly evolved palette of what you're calling a vegan diet, meaning an awareness of nutrition, when you just look at it loosely as veganism and omnivore is probably going to be the safest one if you're not aware, and if you don't want to do the research, and if you don't want to pay attention to learning about your own body. So all the commentary that has come from people, somebody told me, again, you're falling back on this paleo thing. I don't care about if it looks like we ate meat before. I don't care about the length of the digestive tract and all that stuff. A lot of all of that is pointing to the fact that we're more plant-based anyways. And I don't care about the information that's been gathered, because most of the information that's been gathered is actually based on a time when we didn't have the high-powered ability to move food everywhere. So the way that cultures eat is not based on localness anymore. And I know that's a whole different kind of thinking, but what I'm talking about is what's available to a person to be a vegan. So, number one on that list, of course, my pet favorite one is coconuts, coconut butter, coconuts, mature, young Thai coconuts, every kind of coconut product that you can get your hands on. So anything that's not addressing sustainability and having a responsibility to the human race, don't care. Because it's this whole, we're doomed. There's too many people. You can't maintain this kind of thinking, which is kind of selfish. You have to look the continuation of the species. There's no way. And as like third world countries come online, like India and China, you know, especially China wanting to, like, the whole China study is based on a time, as somebody pointed out in one of the comments, the China study about vegetarianism, based on a time of poverty in that country, and they had a lot of vegetarians to study, and, you know, of course that's all changed because they want to be Western minded now. And as all the third world wants to become Western minded, thank God the leading hipness in the Western world is veganism. You know, that is coming into the forefront, and thank God. But in the meantime, the third world is wanting to be a lot more Western, how we mostly are. Like the idea of eating a meatless meal is like kind of like, it's this whole like bling mentality now. It's way more cool to be vegan, actually, if the food, I just, yeah, anyways. So here we come with what's the central topic. I'm doing a little mini-series, maybe this is ongoing, but the main topic here, which I've talked a lot, again, the whole point here is I'm attempting really to bridge the vegan world, the sustainability people, the eco-minded, I don't want to kill animals, because that's where my whole consciousness is headed back towards, because I sort of lost track with that importance in my life of actually diving into being paleo. And really hearing numbers on NPR, especially with the harvesting of fish from the ocean, because a lot of people act like that's sustainable, like fish is okay, and it's not, because the oceans are dying, you know. So, but the big thing is the land production, is factory farming, and overpopulation. Those are the two big things that are detrimental. The numbers of people that are here are stammering, you know, or just like gigantic. This is not thought about, you know. This is like, so we have this whole like community of people which I'm associated with, which are more totally interested in what is the highest performance food, or and I do have to think that it's the thinking of a lot of what people are saying is very biased, because it's using historical information. It's which again, I'm saying, yes, I do admit that the vegan diet's an experimental diet, but it's an experiment that has to be done, and this is why it's don't care about anything. The human species is very orientated towards being plant-based, and the next step is being entirely vegan for the sake of the preservation of the human race. So on factory farming, I'm not going to go through a bunch of statistics here, but it's like, it's ridiculous what goes on. The amount of water and raw material, I think it's in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 gallons of water, and somewhere in the neighborhood of like 10 pounds, I think it's 10 pounds of raw material to equal 1 pound of meat. And the pollution on the planet, like, I was surprised when I started going through a lot of this stuff on YouTube about vegan politics and about the stuff that has to do with pollution of the planet. And it's actually the hugest contributor to pollution, greenhouse gases, is factory farming. Not airplane, not travel. That's what kind of like the what do you call that? The urban myth thinking of like that it's all from transportation. But then in the transportation factor, when you put in the fact that there's you know, more fuel being used on the moving around of all of this kind of stuff, and of the plant material, it's just easier to go with plant-based. Not to mention the fact that so much of our farming goes towards animal production. And it doesn't matter if you're doing grass-fed, or it doesn't matter if, like, unless you're living in a niche world where you're a family that's like doing stuff, that's the only way that it's really eco-minded. And obviously with 7 billion people, and that's where this wild thinking and a lot of it's fucking, put that to the back burner. I'm glad that there's people that can, you know, I'm not trying to pick on Daniel Vitalis, but he is the superstar of the wilding thinking and of eating only wild. That's great. There's a few people that I'm somebody that could do that. I don't want to do that. I'm more of a guy that lives in the world where I use technology. I'm an electronic musician. I'm interested in forging a new kind of people, not this idealistic whole new form of like it's like a Garden of Eden kind of thinking. It's not futuristic because the way you have to think any health protocol is you have to plug in what if everybody else in the world does it. Like I'll give you an example of just what's happened in this health community that I know about from being an herbalist. And as it stands with herbs right now, I'm not taking anything at all. I'm working on a diet first, and I'm getting something that works for me, and then I'm going to slowly add my herbal program back on. So I'll tell you about something that happened in the health community. So the Erewhon Tonic Bar and Truth Calkins and the Longevity Now people all got this like big supply and demand sort of going for deer placenta. Now, how I feel about all of this stuff, deer placenta and deer antler, I'm not using it right now. That's something that's going to go through processing with me because I actually don't know in my own heart. Like the deer antler, I know that that's done like humanely, and the fact that that's we'll address that. I don't need to get into that. Deer placenta is nothing. But the point of this topic is that they created such a mad surge for it that it's gone. They don't have it. Like all the Dragon Herbs products that had deer placenta in it are now goat placenta. And I'd heard this basically, and I'm sure that this whole mad rush for that deer placenta created, and it has to do with the supply, which is coming out of New Zealand, not available for 3 years. This started in like 2010. So this should give you an idea of what's going to happen with like why everything that you think about, the way that you want to live, if you're a light worker, if you're futuristic, if you're responsible for living the way that people should, every health decision, every food decision you do should be at least a new or a positive or an established kind of thinking that's working towards can 7 billion, can 10 billion people do it? Because it's probably going to get up to 10 billion people before, you know, we just got to be reasonable. We got to realize that we're in an era of darkness where it's just this whole me kind of thinking, and just how forward evolution has gotten fucked up with the consumerism, the ruthless conquering. Like there's just too many of us. Like it has to be a lot more of a communal kind of thinking. So hey, a little bit long-winded there, but could have edited that maybe a little bit shorter. But when I get really passionate about something, you know, if you just let yourself go and get into my mood, I really just go with it. I feel very strongly about this. In fact, I have an association with a good friend who's a bit of a chocolate addict that I'm around. Not so crazy chocolate. Crazy like a lot of people. So this Dagobah bar, it has 0.1% milk in it. That's how strongly I feel about this. I don't want to get 0.0001% milk in there. I don't want anything to do with it. So enough said. I feel very passionate about that because there's a higher reason to be vegan. There's a lot of reasons. We'll keep going with this because I'm getting very strong on getting back. So the pick of the day. New music coming from me. I did an angel healing. We're gonna talk about that, don't we? Creative surge I'm having right now. Pick of the day though. The way I'm eating lately, I'm a bit obsessed with Southeast Asian things and cooking, ways of preparing food. Here's a great little pick of the day. It's this recipe idea on this Southeast Asian, Indonesian, it spans all of those countries in there. It's a recipe called GADO. You can trade out things in there. It's the whole idea of like making this dressing, especially with the Thai mortar and pestle. They don't use blenders, they grind stuff. I'm going to be getting a Thai mortar and pestle, deep mortar. Pistol's the hitting part. I got that reversed. Anyways, the vessel that goes in, very deep. So I'm cooking that way. This is a point of interest for you. Also, a lot of Southeast Asian cooking has a lot of spices in it, and in the being raw vegan thing, people go too light with all of that kind of stuff. And I know there's a whole like hygiene diet, old school, this like thread of thinking that comes into the 80-10-10 thinking. I don't agree with that. I strongly don't agree with that. A lot of things like garlic, ginger, chilies, all these spices, just all these things that are in the herb, kind of complex food, grinding those down and making a paste out of them and turning them into an interesting dressing. Those things are all very, very nutrient dense. Don't make the mistake of eating bland. And Southeast Asian cooking really takes into account the mixture of doing a lot of stuff. So hey, this recipe on GADO, it's really nicely done, and it's just, I'm just showing you what I'm doing, things that I'm watching, I'm paying attention to. You're gonna probably see a recipe coming from me that's like very similar to this, but with all healthy adaptions. So you should be watching stuff. This is what I do, learning about the way that different countries eat. Southeastern Asian cooking, preparation of food. There's a lot of raw stuff running through that, especially the salads of Vietnam, Thailand, and this GADO, which is very raw based. Alright.